Welcome to another episode of WTF, the world, according to Taunton and Fox, not the worlds of Taunton and Fox, or the worlds according to Taunton and Fox, or other things that people have said before. It's the world according to Taunton and Fox. I'm Laurence Fox, and this is Larry Taunton. And Larry Taunton seems to have a slightly different background from his usual smoochy set. And I'm interested as to why the background is different. And where are you, Larry?
Well, this isn't a green screen. This is Mexico City. I just arrived here late last night. Good to see you, Laza.
So you're in Mexico City. Good to see you too, brother. So you're in Mexico City because you are. I mean, I want to talk about. Maybe we'll do Mexico City at the end. Let's just get straight into. We've got to talk about the what happened on Tuesday night. Oh,
This is great. Today is a celebration of what happened earlier this week. You first.
okay. So obviously, I'm just beyond thrilled because I saw where we were heading, as all of us who, or all of the Americans who voted for Trump, actually saw where America was heading, and I was terrified of what another period of these evil bastard Democrats, which I think they are actually now. I think they're not. It's not a political party. It's just it's a bunch of evil people. What they were going to do next. So to see that ideology so roundly rejected by what is, it's not a political movement, MAGA. It's a cultural movement. It's a cultural movement built around values that I think we will always understand, which is not being afraid, being hopeful, trying to get the maximum out of human flourishing. In every aspect of life, it's an abject rejection of despair. And it covers everything. And it's just amazing that this guy, Donald Trump, who's not a politician, which again should really empower everyone out there to know that you don't need to be some political science major or have gone to Oxford and studied PPE to make a huge difference in the world. You just got to have cojones of steel. Has stood up and put a middle finger up at what is essentially, I know that it goes on endlessly, but it is fascism. Fascism is corporatism, isn't it? I think people use the word fascist a lot. I was listening to Alessandra, whatever her name is, Occasional Cortex, talking about fascism, and I was like, you don't really know what fascism is.
No.
So am I correct in saying that fascism, in Mussolini's definition of fascism, is it's the combination of corporate power and state power working together to redefine the headway of a nation? Is that right or is that wrong?
Yeah. I mean, a very simple difference is that in the Marxist or the communist worldview, there is no private property. Fascists allow for private property. It's just at the disposal and the direction of the state. So they harness the economy for war. And in this case, the war has been against domestic populations. But proceed.
Right. So what we've seen is that I think with Google, with Facebook, with all of these, with these 20 million missing votes from 2020. I mean, where the have they gone? The,
WTF?
where the fuck have they gone? 20 million votes,
Where the
88
fuck? Where the
million
fuck
votes.
have they gone?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've got these liberals, or they call themselves liberals, but they're not. But they're sort of crying away about fascism, and I'm like, no, that's what we're leaving. We're leaving that behind.
Yeah.
The creeping onset of fascism. That's what we're leaving behind. And I just think it's such a wonderful, it's such a amazing moment for humanity because it's all of the MAGA stuff is about hope, and it's an utter rejection of despair, and that always makes me happy. So that's how I feel, and I'm sure I'll have other thoughts, but I want to hear what you feel.
As an American, I have to say, for the last 4 years, my country has done many things in the last 4 years of which I am not proud. War in Ukraine, we have nefarious motivations to be in Ukraine. We may, in fact, be the most evil party in that war. The things that have been done to children in my country. Jimmy Kimmel last night was all weepy and he's saying it's a terrible day for children. Jimmy, your people kill and mutilate children. I'm so sick of your faux virtue. My country, what they've done to children, the drag queen story hours, the creeping Marxism, the abuse of the American people has been shocking. And I'm one of the last people, both for theological and for experiential reasons, that you will ever hear say the words, "My faith in humanity has been restored." I have no faith in humanity. But today, election night, this week, I was proud of the American people who stood up and said, enough is enough. We are sick of you. We are not buying your agenda. We don't think he's Hitler. You people are liars. And I was proud to be an American. This day, I am full of emotion. I am excited. I am pumped. Yes. And
It's so good.
I am, Laza, because this battle isn't over by any stretch of the imagination. What was it that Churchill said? This is not the beginning of the end. It's the end of the beginning. I mean, we have a long fight against us before us, and we have to make hay, to use an old expression. We have to make good use of these 4 years. We have to reform our elections. We have to deport many illegals in our country who do not belong there. We have to stem the tide of Marxist policies in our country. We need to restore unity. These are all things we need to do. But what happened on election night was something that should give every real American and every freedom-loving person in the world hope. Globalists are major losers, and they are on the run. They're retreating all over the world as a result of this. And so I'm so full of hope for what the next 4 years could possibly be, and that Trump could actually make good on the saying on the hat, "Make America great again." So I'm proud to be an American this day.
I know. I'm not even an American, and I'm proud to be an American. So I can imagine what the vibe is. There seems to be a complete change in everyone who has been stamped on, called a racist, called a fascist. There seems to be a collective. But what I want to know is, what are the lessons that we've learned from Trump? Because I'm sat there going, obviously I'm a contentious figure. And I'm not making this about me. I'm just saying that people advise me a lot. They're always like, no, you need to like dress better and wear suits and speak in a kind of really, you need to be more moderate in your language and all that sort of stuff. Trump is none of those things.
Yeah.
He calls the people, he calls the Democrats evil. They're evil people. That's what he calls them. He says the party has been taken over by evil people who want to do evil things. The immigration crisis that hits Europe and America, he refers to these people as they're not sending their best. They're emptying their jails, their prisons. He's so hyperbolic. And that message, and it's a very emotional message, has resonated hugely with the American people. It's not a Mitt Romney message or even a Ronald Reagan message. I mean, Ronald Reagan had a sort of slow and gentle humor about him. It's a brutal and blunt, full-on attack on this ideology. What I want to know is that a lesson that we should all learn from, or is there rational debate to be had by these people? Should one be debating free speech with them, or should one turn around and say, I absolutely don't acknowledge the veracity of your question. You're being provocative. You're not trying to have a discussion with me. Be quiet. Let the grown-ups speak. What do you think?
Well, let's start with Trump. I think that what has really worked well for Trump has resonated with the American people is that he's genuine. So, if you're out there using, blunt language and dressing a particular way that isn't really you, I think people pick up on that. So you can be very genuine and be someone who uses very moderate language and wears a nice suit. that's partially what hasn't worked, with the left is that, you have Tim Walz out, hunting, and it's clear he doesn't know how to handle a gun, or you have these fake accents from Kamala Harris or Obama trying to pretend like he's from the hood, and this kind of thing. I think what has worked for Trump, for me, what was sort of missing with the whole McDonald's commentary, the narrative on that, was yes, he was trolling Kamala Harris. That's true. Everybody got that. But what made it work is that Donald Trump likes people. Now, there are a lot of people he doesn't like, and they tend to be people that you and I don't like either. But when Donald Trump is, just chit chatting with a mother who's in her station wagon with kids in the back as he's handing her, a Happy Meal or something, he looks like he's genuinely enjoying himself. He likes normal American people. And what works for Donald Trump is the fact that when he is, and I wasn't really hearing anybody saying this, when you're seeing him working at McDonald's and he's handing a Happy Meal to a mother who's in a station wagon with kids in the back and he's chit chatting with her, it doesn't feel fake. It feels like this is a guy who likes people. He's enjoying talking to her. He knows something about their world. And we started with me in Mexico City. I feel like in my profession, in your profession, what we do for a living in making cultural, political commentary is it is so easy, and this is what the left does, and many on the right, is they get up in their Manhattan studio apartments, they put on their robe and slippers and grab a cup of coffee and they watch Morning Joe or some nonsense like that, and then they sit down and they pontificate on it all. I think it's incredibly important that you're engaging real people. You're engaging with both people high and low, and hence I want to know what's going on in the lives of regular people. I live in a place with regular people. You live in a place with regular people, so that you know what their lives are like and what they're dealing with. I think Donald Trump does this. So I think that his genuineness, his authenticity is what comes out.
I was really, I agree that the McDonald's thing when the guy just went, "I'm just an ordinary person," that Indian guy, the Indian American guy, and he went, "No, you're not," and he means it. In the same way as Kamala Harris, Kamala, I'm going to call her now because sorry, f you and you're telling me how to pronounce someone's name. When it's like you're at the wrong rally, you dirty, at a Catholic university, as far as I can gather. She means that too. So there's nothing more wonderful than the common touch, and it's genuine, as you say, and people can smell bullshit. My dad always used to say to me, my dad's given me the two best pieces of advice I've ever had in my life. The first one was I did listen to, and the second one I didn't. And the first piece of advice was when I was going to be an actor. And he said, if you want to be a good actor and a successful actor, respect your audience. They are much, much smarter than you think they are. And that is something that we've got rid of. Lots of the commentary out turn around and say, people are stupid, that's it's this sort of commentary way. That was the first piece of advice, and I took that one. And the second piece of advice I got from him, which I think comes over into the voting, looking at some of the videos that have come out over the last couple of days of people having meltdowns, is he said that women want to be in charge, and if you let them, they will resent you forever.
Yeah,
And I,
that's absolutely true. That's biblical, actually.
yeah,
That's actually very biblical. I have to drop this in here, by the way. Lori and I have been watching in the evenings. We started watching Downton Abbey, and just a couple of nights ago, I said, "That's James Fox. That's Lawrence's dad." That was wholly unexpected. I didn't know that was coming, so I have to throw that in there. That was pretty cool. And when you first came to hang out with me at Layla, my lake house, you said to me something to this effect. I don't want to mischaracterize it. You can correct me if I do so. But you said, you don't have to do anything to try to impress me. I am so sick and tired of pretentiousness. I'm so sick and tired of, hanging out with those kind of people. I'm perfectly happy to go and and eat at a barbecue restaurant or a pizza shack is kind of the way you sort of characterized it. I think that's Donald Trump, meaning I think Donald Trump would be just as happy to golf with you or with me, maybe not me because I'm not a good golfer, but as he is to go and golf with the president of Argentina. Well, the president of Argentina, he actually likes that guy, but as he would be with some movie star. I just don't think that's Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump likes the American people, and I think that really resonated. And what's very interesting is it seems to me exit polls are suggesting this, that he got a lot of black male voters precisely because of the lawfare that the left was using against him. And black men were looking at that and going, we've experienced that. We've seen that. This guy's one of us. They're calling him a Nazi. They're calling him a Hitler. They tried to kill him. They're using the law against him. None of this stuff is just. None of it is true. I'm going to vote for that guy because he's like me. That the exit polls are suggesting that there was a lot of that. And what's quite fascinating is that he was winning. He won Hispanic voters with a platform that spoke of mass deportation of illegals. Now that's fascinating. And what's also fascinating is that the left thought that their message of killing and mutilating children, everybody wants the freedom to do that. Well, it turns out the American people said, no, they don't. We don't. And these people are so evil that they do what evil people do. They assume that other people think the way they do. And the American people those were not freedoms they want. That didn't resonate with them at the polls. Trans rights did not matter to the American people. They said no to all this nonsense. And here was Donald Trump saying, I want to make life better for you. I mean, what
Yeah.
happened to the day of having politicians who got up with an impulse that said, what can I do to make the lives of British citizens better this day? To make American citizens' lives better this day?
So this is my major problem with the whole with the lack of God in this world, is that these people, you've got these commentators. We had this guy called Rory Stewart in the UK. He was a conservative, and he ran for the leadership of the Conservative Party. He's an absolute, not even vaguely conservative or commonsensical in any way. He cannot understand how Trump won. And I think that goes back to the idea of man being fallen. Because if you don't believe that man is fallen, you believe that man is fundamentally a good thing. Therefore, you believe that what man does is fundamentally good. And therefore, if you don't agree with someone who fundamentally disagrees with you, they're fundamentally bad. And it becomes this sort of whirlwind of judgment, which is just removed by this idea of turning around and saying, no, we're not fundamentally good people. We're fundamentally fallen people, and that self-awareness of that and the conscience that comes with it creates the opportunity for you to connect with anyone and everyone and be authentic and consistent and real, like what you're describing about Trump, which is just taking someone as they see them, knowing what their own faults are. It's amazing that they can't get Trump on his morality because it's public knowledge. And he almost enjoys letting people know that he's morally, defunct. And I just think that until I wonder if that people are going to realize now that you're not judging people on the color of their skin, you're judging them on the content of their character. One of the crucial aspects of the content of someone's character is an acknowledgement that they are fallen, that
Yeah.
there is something in them that is so fundamentally broken that it cannot be redeemed by anyone other than God. That's the most important thing. But just on one level, step down from that, it cannot be redeemed without looking at other people and seeing them as equals to you. And those that adopt this morally superior, moral supremacist attitude towards dealing with other people, that is the manifestation of evil in this world. I am right. Fundamentally, there is nothing wrong with me because I'm compassionate, I'm empathetic, I care about black people, trans rights, I care about autogynephilic men who want to go into women's changing rooms or beat up women in sports. I care. So I'm so compassionate. It's like, no, you're not. You're actually evil. F you, you're evil. is what I think about that. And I'm loving the world where I can turn around to these people, which I've been doing anyway because I've done it, because and to just turn around and say, you're evil. You're anyone who divide this word. I want to destroy this word community. I want it gone. Community, the black community, the gay community, the transsexual community. You never hear about the white community, do you? Because if you did, it would be called the Ku Klux Klan.
Or just the fundamentally decent British people or American people. They don't care. They are anti-human. This election was about pro-human versus anti-human. This is about people who care. They're ideologues, meaning they care more about their ideas, their vision, in which they see human beings as just the raw material, the brick and mortar for the building of their utopian state. And here's Trump that comes along as a guy who's quite transparent. And when they say he did this or he did that, in many cases he goes, "Yep, I did that. Yep, I was the guy who did that. Sure did." And then there are other things that they come along and say, "Well, you're a Nazi," and this he goes, "No, I draw the line there. I'm not that." I think the American people thought, yes, this is a guy who fights. And by the way, your claims are that much more absurd because he was president once before. And he wasn't, as we recall, putting people in cattle cars and sending them to Auschwitzes. He wasn't the one who was talking about doing away with free speech. He wasn't the one censoring his enemies. He wasn't the one spying on his political opponents' campaign. He wasn't the one using lawfare or trying to imprison his political opponents. He wasn't the one chopping off the penises of little boys. Americans aren't stupid, and they can see this, and they said, enough. We're done with this. We are done with it. We want to be rid of you people. And the great thing is that not only has he won the Electoral College in a landslide, but he won the popular vote, the first president to do so since 2004. And I'll say this, Laza, I think if this had been a one day, in person, US citizens only with proof of identification vote, Trump wins in 1984 Mondale versus Reagan kind of fashion. Did you know that Trump carried every single state that required voter ID? That's
Yeah.
very telling.
Well, and also one hopes, as you talk about what they're going to do, I hope they bring back in one day voting except for exemplary circumstances, and that voter ID is mandatory. I mean, the idea that we have been shoveled into this worldview that you need ID to have a bank account, you need ID to do almost anything except vote, and that we're all meant to go, oh, okay, why? And they're like, well, because it's racist if you don't do it. It's like, no, we're going to wipe that off the market as well, because words need to mean something. I'm a person who traded in words for a living, and they mean something. And I was speaking with Jeremy, who backs me, and I was saying, how do you feel about all of this? And he said, well, it's interesting that political discourse is emotional rather than intellectual, and that you came at it. I originally came at it on a rational, intellectual level. So I would turn around and say, "Well, you can't call me. I'm not a racist. So I will countersue you for calling me a racist." And they sit there, and you end up in this absolutely mad world where these very important words now mean nothing, have been absolutely completely and utterly destroyed. And that's the other thing that Trump has done, because he's not a highly articulate dude either. He's very funny, but he's not a man that speaks he's not a Roger Scruton, is he, or a Thomas Sowell. He's not one of those. So I wonder whether we're reverting to a kind of a sort of, it's very hard to picture it, but it's such an abject rejection of this ideology that the only really way to do it is just to stamp on them, to get rid of them, to remove. And when I say get rid of them, someone will clip that out, of course, but to stamp on their way of looking at the world, to say we reject misery, we reject despair, we embrace hope. And weirdly, Orange Man Bad is the guy that carried the line on this one.
Well, they are having a meltdown because they don't want to live in a world anymore where they can't trans children. I mean, these people, I mean, Trump came along yesterday, I think it was, maybe a couple of days ago, but Trump said, what do you say we have a blowout 250th celebration of America?
I
When
love it.
president done that? Now, Laza, when I was a kid, I remember I was 9 years old. The year 1976, the 200th anniversary of America, was a year-long celebration of the United States. My mother and I painted my bedroom red, white, and blue. My furniture was red, white, and blue. The bedspread was red, white, and blue. It was a year-long celebration of America, regardless of your ethnic background, your national background, your skin color, didn't matter. Let's celebrate America together. Now, that is so inclusive, that message. If you're being excluded from it, it's because you're a hateful person and you just hate America, in which case you should just leave. But contrast that with what the left was giving us. On Easter Sunday, for Christians, the most holy day, they said, let's celebrate Trans Visibility Day. That's the bullshit. Pardon my language, but that's what we were getting out of the left. And Trump says, I'm going to end chemical castration and surgical castration of children. And guess what? Let's celebrate once again what a great, great country this is. And instead of doing it in a blue state, he said, we're doing it in freaking Iowa. We're going to go to Iowa and we're going to celebrate the greatness of this country. I just felt like, yes, that's what I want. When I come to Britain, I expect the same thing from Britain. I admire British people who wear the pin, the lapel, who fly the flag, and who say they love their country. Makes me feel kind of British and patriotic. I love that.
Yeah, it's very base and natural and normal and tribal. And you saw that that lovely graphic of the wolves in Yellowstone Park. You saw that one
No, I
where
didn't.
they oh, it's brilliant. So they put trackers on wolves in Yellowstone, or yeah, I think it was Yellowstone, and they tracked the movements of the wolves, and they surprise, surprise, they had borders. But here's the other one, which is interesting for the UK, and I think the UK needs to understand this, and it does understand it better, which is that the policy of mass immigration everybody, because the people that have come in, the most recent invites into a country, are the ones that are going to struggle the hardest to make their way. But we should provide everyone with an opportunity to make their way, as long as they buy into the values and the culture and traditions of the country. You should have as much of a chance as anybody else. But they always have the hardest time. So actually, I think we're developing in the UK a sense of what you got in America in this election, which is it's immigrants who are turning around and saying, "Hang on, there can't be any more competition here. It's difficult enough for me as it is." So I wonder whether the idea of multiculturalism and mass immigration will be hoisted by its own petard anyway, because you cannot continually kind of make life difficult for the people that are finding life difficult for themselves anyway. And Vic Sampson said he didn't meet a single Hispanic where he lives in California. He said that, he's an overwhelmingly Hispanic and Mexican area. He said didn't meet a single man over 40. And he talks about it a lot, who was going to vote for Harris. Not one.
No, well, listen, Hispanics, I think it's fascinating. I was having a conversation here last night in Mexico City, where Mexico City, at least a part of Mexico City that I'm in, is these are people who are not trying to cross the border. These are people who are sophisticated, well educated, successful. So their political views have been deeply influenced by our media. And so for the most part, it's just like you're talking to a New Yorker. They don't like Trump. But when I pointed out to them, are you aware that Trump carried And by the way, they focus on the border. It's just terrible. To close the border. Of course, they close their own. They're not aware of that. But I've been on the southern Mexican border, and trust me, they do close it. But I say to them, are you aware of the fact that Trump carried the Hispanic vote while running on a campaign of mass deportation and closing the border and enacting a sensible border policy? They're kind of shocked by that. And they asked me, why is that? And I said, well, because Hispanics in America are there to achieve the American dream. They are generally a very hardworking people. They are some of the most pro-American people. And they don't want open borders. They don't want to be competing for a job with a guy who doesn't pay taxes, who's not a citizen, who didn't do the hard work to get where they are. They don't want that. And nor do Mexicans in this city want that. And I was pointing out to them that on the outskirts, most Mexicans here are not aware of the fact that on the outskirts of the city, there are migrant camps. And it's because they don't see them. I do see them. I go into them. I go into them tomorrow. Beginning well before 2020, there was a lot of conversation about, in our country, about our border problem because the left under Obama, before Trump took office in 2016, was already moving towards a kind of soft opening of the border, you see. And so this was going on for a long time, and there's much discussion about it. Of course, Trump ran on this campaign that he was going to build a border wall, and then in 2020 with Biden, there was just a flood. And I began asking the question, while Trump was still president, no one seems to be asking what's taking place on the other side of the border. I mean, we're talking about the border itself. We all know why they want to come to the United States, because Democrats have portrayed us to other countries as this great piñata, the magic kingdom where you come and we give you cell phones and money and relocate you, this kind of thing. But what actually is driving people to leave their own country? And see, CNN was claiming that it was all due to climate change, that people were fleeing these countries south of the border due to climate change. So since 2019, I've been down here probably, I don't know, 12, 15 times, many times. And I've been all over South and Central America. I've been in many of the major cities, but I've also been in places like the Darien Gap, arguably the most dangerous jungle in the world, 60 kilometers of jungle through which there is no road. Most Americans think that you can drive the Great Pan American Highway from Anchorage all the way to the tip of South America. You cannot. There is no road that goes through the Darien Gap. You have to take a ferry to go around it. And yet these people are braving it and they're going through there. And often, it's a Hotel California of jungles. They're disappearing, being raped, human trafficking, you name it. And nobody's coming to look for you when that takes place there. So I started following these caravans along the Colombian border with Venezuela and in Brazil and in Chile, Peru, Costa Rica, Mexico, Panama, you name it, and going into cartel country and elsewhere where these people are being trafficked. And I was interviewing them, and I'm interviewing some of the traffickers themselves, and then the NGOs, which are being funded by the United States. My theory is, by the way, that the money for this is not coming from George Soros. This is way bigger than George Soros kind of money. I think the money is being laundered through Ukraine to fund this through UN NGOs like IOM, sometimes OIM, Office of
But
International.
slow down. So hang on. The money laundering, most people on the sort of sensible far right extremist side would say that Ukraine, the money laundering in Ukraine is going to restock with brand new shiny missiles the American military arsenal, but you're saying something different.
Well, I'm not saying that we aren't sending them military hardware, and that money isn't going to other causes. It is being used to fund a variety of globalist causes. But just as we just discovered after this hurricane that the FEMA budget had been pilfered, those coffers were empty because Democrats were using FEMA money to bring illegals into the country and relocate them. So suddenly they turn to American citizens and say, we have no money in the FEMA coffers because we've given it all away for something else. Well, when you go to South America, I have witnessed, Laza, over the course of 5 years coming down here a lot, that mass immigration to the United States, when I first started coming down here, it was fairly ad hoc. People were, Facebook groups and these kinds of things, all trying to figure out the best way to get to the United States. As of a couple of years ago, when I started coming down here, it had become a highly sophisticated and organized system. And that is because the Biden administration has been running the largest human trafficking op maybe in history, pushing these people along. So I'm sitting in, say, Cartagena, Colombia, and I'm talking to the head of an NGO who is telling me, a Colombian woman who is telling me, we're being told to load these people on planes and to send them to the United States. I said, where are they going? She said, I don't know. We're not told. I said, are you vetting them? She said, no. We're told we're not supposed to be vetting them. And we're told which nationalities we're to put on these planes. And then,
That's treason, though. That what you're talking about is treason.
yeah,
That
absolutely.
that 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 should be punishable. I don't believe in the death penalty, but I do believe in the death penalty for treason, for some reason.
Yeah, well, I
I
mean,
do.
I do too. But let me tell you an interesting little story that relates to this. The UN organization, the aforementioned UN organization that is doing this is OIM, Office of International Migration, sometimes IOM, International Office of Migration. And you see their logo on the outside of buildings and this kind of stuff. And this is where they are, loading these people on planes and sending them to all these different places in the United States, typically into separate terminals, so that American citizens aren't generally seeing them. Okay, so I'm down here. I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, just before you came down. I was down here, and I see just what I've described. These kinds of people, mostly Venezuelans, some Haitians, a few Cubans, all being loaded on planes and being sent to the U.S. Okay, then I leave here, I go home, and I am connecting through Houston, um, George Bush International Airport. And you know how it is when you arrive from an international flight, you dump out into these grand galleries, these hallways, and you're just turning on your phone. And I'm walking along, with my backpack, and I see another group of people coming from another hallway, and they're all headed towards passport control, and I just kind of blend in with them. I'm not really paying that close attention. Passport control here, and I go and I keep following them, and then I begin to note that they're all Hispanic, every single one of them. And then I noticed they all had IOM swag, little tote bags and hats and shirts. And all of a sudden, a security guy says, "Sir, you are in the wrong line." And I was like, this is interesting. So these people weren't even being brought in via the regular means that U.S. I only ended up there quite by accident. This is the kind of stuff that has been going on. So I've been following these people. And I should say this. I have met hundreds of these people. I have sat in their cardboard villages. Some of them are people that I myself have done what I could to help them. Many of them are people who are fleeing, not climate change, they're fleeing socialist shitholes. Venezuela, arguably the wealthiest country in South America, socialism has utterly destroyed that country. And what you see is a guy, you'll see a guy standing on the street singing, Laza, and you talk to him, and it turns out he's from Venezuela and he's a physician. But it got so bad that he couldn't feed his family. He can't get a visa to work in Colombia. So now he just sings on the street, busking, as you call it, and hoping people will give him some change. I met hundreds of those people. They're doing what any rational human being would do in trying to save their families. However, what we should be doing is trying to help those people stay in their own countries. And we're not vetting them. When I was in the Darien Gap, I'm talking on the Panamanian side. The Panamanian Border Patrol, they're called Centifront, and they're more like special forces, because they go into the jungles. And I'm at one of their outposts, and I'm talking to an outpost commander who didn't want to give me his name for obvious reasons, but he said, "Your country's committing suicide." He said, "We are being told by your people, unidentified U.S. bureaucrats are flying down here and are instructing us what we are to do with these people." And I said, "You got to be kidding me." And he said, "No, they're coming here and they lecture us on how we're to handle our own border policy. But because we're so dependent on US dollars, we do as we're told. And we just say to all these people, we don't want them. We just say, the United States is that way. Go that way. We want you out of here." We put them on buses once they make it through the Darien Gap, and we send them north. And that's because what people don't understand, particularly in your part of the world, is these people are illegal in every country they go through. Every single country. And so the Mexicans say the United States is that way. The Panamanians, the US is that way. The Colombians, that way. Get out of our country. We don't want you here. So they're all suffering, massive increase in homelessness and criminal activity, cartels. I've dealt with some of the cartels. These are very scary people. It's terrifying. And it's all been brought about by the Biden administration that said, running a Black Friday sale in the United States. Come on, folks.
But we get it completely in the UK because we obviously have a welfare state, and you can't pour immigration into a welfare state, because welfare state is a socialist state and it doesn't work. So a native-born English person of whatever melanin count cannot get decent medical treatment in this country as part of that, and we are pouring on into that immigration, uncontrolled immigration into a welfare state, which wouldn't work even if it was perfect. So we do get that, and we do get the fact that these people were illegal all the way through Europe. They were illegal in every country, but they're coming to the UK because the UK has been taught to hate itself so much and its colonial past. We've been taught to hate ourselves so much that if we don't throw the doors open to these people and we don't tolerate, the death cult ideology, that we're in some way terrible. And I am so hopeful that Trump's reemergence and the reemergence of common sense, human flourishing thinking will mean that we can turn around and go, no. I went into London yesterday, and I perhaps I shouldn't do it because I like, but other people do it. So I go and I see my son on Wednesday, and we hang out and we spend time together, and then it's one of the things we do. And I got on the train and I was so happy about the election result that I got my hat on.
I saw the.
And yeah, and when I go into that school, this horrible progressive shithole of a school, they part like the Sea of Jordan anyway, or whatever it is, the Red Sea. They just part. And because I'm just Satan to them. And then my son actually did say to me, he said, "It's because you're right wing." And I said, "What does that mean?" And anyway, we got into a long conversation about that. But I went into London yesterday, and I have seen the city that I grew up in. I grew up in this city. I had a very long-term relationship with a girl in the east side of the city. Nothing. I don't recognise it at all. If you drop me on the same street that I lived in a house with her on and off, I wouldn't know which street it was. That is what is being done to London. And I look forward to the day where people can start actually actively saying, this is national suicide, like you say. We are committing cultural suicide. And the only way you can that's what sort of takes me back to this idea of being a traitor. I don't think that man should have judgment over other man. I don't think that murderers should be killed. And actually, I don't think paedophiles should be killed. I don't believe in the death penalty. But if you cannot literally live safely in a country and people are perpetrating treason around you, then I think that is actually warrants the death penalty. I think that the successive UK governments from Blair, from 97, who began this globalist agenda, I think these people, they also then went and killed 1 million Iraqis just for shits and giggles. These people should be tried in a Nuremberg trial, and they should be dispatched. I would be absolutely happy with that, and I wouldn't lose sleep over it at all. And that, I don't think that's extremism. I think that's just rationalism.
Well, that's interesting because Trump, there are a lot of people who feel the way you do on the Trump side, who have been speaking in much stronger terms. And Trump has consistently said this isn't about revenge. But I pointed out yesterday on social media and on my own show this. I agree. Revenge is terrible government policy. Justice, however, is a different thing. And there must be accountability. Otherwise, you make a mockery of the law. And what you do is you incentivize criminal activity. And we're not just talking about, petty theft or some kind of petty crime. We're talking about egregious criminal activity. And there must be accountability for that. General Milley said a couple of weeks ago before the election, he said that he feared that if Trump was elected, that he would face a court martial as if to get the sympathy of the American people. General Milley, you should be court-martialed. You are a traitor, by your own words, by the way. He's the one who has stated, what he has done. There must be accountability with the FBI. There must be accountability with the weaponizing of government institutions against the American people. There must be accountability for election rigging. We started with you saying that where have 15 million voters suddenly gone? Well, we know that 2020 was rigged. There must be accountability for lockdowns that destroyed the economy and the lives of people, and vaccine mandates where people lost their jobs and their livelihood and their ability to support their families. There must be accountability. So no, I'm not in favor of revenge. We're not like the left. We're not like Democrats. That's not the way we roll. We want to bring the American people together. However, if you are a criminal, you should lawyer up.
I agree. I think that I have I keep I wake up every day and I think what are they going to go after first? Are they going to go after Fauci? Because he that man, what he did, I wouldn't. I would not. I would feel about the same as I felt when Saddam Hussein was hung. I would. What next? These autogynephilic men who we've been forced to tolerate because they like to post pictures of themselves dressing up as girls. It's disgusting. It's vile. It's the pulling down to the lowest common denominator. It's the side effects of that are the mutilation of children. These endless race baiters that sit there and talk about, as you said, the black vote, the Hispanic vote, all of the ethnic minority votes in America were up for Trump this year. What is he going to do first? Because he's coming in with a good team now. He knows it's not like he's turning up to the party for the first time. He's not going to make the mistakes of listening to Fauci this time. He's not going to make those mistakes. Where is he going to go first? And what would you suggest that he did do first, but to clean up the shithole that is being left by Biden and that idiot Harris woman?
What my guess is that he will do first is move immediately to secure the border. I think that's an easy, immediate decision. Not an easy total fix, but you can immediately stop these illegal flights into the United States. You can immediately tell the Border Patrol, hey, new sheriff in town, we're on your side. You protect that border and with need be with force. So that's an obvious thing he can do. I think withdrawing from Ukraine. What the biggest loser in all this after Obama is Zelensky. That gravy train is coming to and Americans who have naively put their faith and trust in the Democrat Party should be breathing a sigh of relief that American boys are not now going to be sent over to die in some other pointless foreign war in the preservation of principles that are non-existent. Ukraine is not a democracy. It isn't free. We're not fighting for that. It is every bit as corrupt as Russia. we need to withdraw from that. So I think that's another obvious thing that we'll do. But the other one is what he's doing now. And I really love Trump for this. He's gone very positive with his message. Love America. We're going to celebrate it. And he's right away started with that. We are going to plan the biggest blowout American celebration ever. I mean, there's just no way you can be negative about that and feel excluded from that unless you're just a horrible human being. So to me, that's so inclusive. That's so wonderful that he's going positive and that he's saying to the American people, "We're going to make this country great again. I'm here for you. I'm here to work for you. I'm not here to make the lives of people in Ukraine better. I'm not here to give your hard-earned tax dollars to people who shouldn't even be in this country in the first place. We're going to improve our infrastructure. We're going to make this economy roar again. We're going to make China, who's been screwing us over, we're going to even the playing field." I love that messaging. That's what a politician should do for his country.
Like a father. It's like a dad, you know? And that's the thing. I think about the way that the systems have been structured, and just this little one, this amazing rejection of what I was saying, this rejection of despair. Because I've been railing against the despair. I've been going, don't you see? For so long that I just live on cortisol and adrenaline. And from Tuesday, I woke up and I went, there are others out there. It's like that bit in that Roland Emmerich film where they go and find people on the roofs of all the buildings because of climate change. But you go, there are more of us, and then you start to go, oh my lord, I am righteously furious
Yeah.
about all of the things that we've spoken about and gone, isn't it dreadful that this happens and that happens, and why aren't more people woken up to it? This is the biggest. They call it the Great Awakening, didn't they, when they started calling everyone a racist? But this is the it's a new enlightenment. Actually, I think this will be the most significant. Tuesday's result will be the most significant thing that's happened in the history of the West ever.
You know,
They came, they saw, and they lost. They lost. I love humanity. We put up with it for such a long time because we are compassionate, and God has given us a lot of wonderful, wonderful things, which is to really try and let other people speak and not shut them down and stamp them down. But there comes a point where you just go, enough is enough. Out of my children's bathrooms. Stop chopping off my children's dicks. Close the border. I need healthcare too. I pay taxes. It's rational. It's just normal and rational. And we need that in the world, because if we don't have something to center ourselves around, chaos ensues. And, I know this in my own life. When things are not good, my life is chaotic. When things are okay, my life is better. And that's all you're asking is it's not even a monumental shift. It's a shift away from evil and a shift towards something more positive.
well, let's end this on a very positive note. Excuse me, the maid is so excited to clean my room that
I know, 3 times.
I had better let her do it. But I want to urge everybody who's listening to us to do this. I think we have to give thanks to God for this. I have said that when it comes to mortal man, that Donald Trump owes no human being more than Elon Musk. Without Elon Musk buying Twitter and preserving free speech, this doesn't happen. But none of it happens if God doesn't show mercy to a country that has embraced the satanic over the past 4 years, which you have so eloquently outlined. I've always been fascinated with Romans chapter 1 because it is a chapter that lays out how a society goes off the rails. And it says that first it starts with suppressing belief in God. And then it says you move through these stages where you become progressively more vile until it says you reach the very bottom, which is a debased mind, which is where we've been going. But what's interesting to me is where it says it begins. And it begins with thanklessness. It begins with a society saying, you know what? I'm pretty terrific, and all the nice things in my life are due to me. It's due to my hard work. It's due to my talents. It's due to my vision. I hope Donald Trump and the American people recognize this for what it is. It is a stay of execution from a gracious God who said, I'm going to give you another chance. I'm going to answer the prayers of those who petitioned me to move on their behalf and did. And did. And I say this with emotion because I feel very strongly about this. And I'm so grateful for the American people. I'm so thankful, proud of the American people for what they did. But I most of all want to give thanks to God. And I hope the American people will do that, that we don't give thanks to some vague deity. Or we just say, I'm blessed. Well, I often stop people with those t-shirts and say, by whom? I mean, do you have any idea? Well, what does that even mean? It usually means themselves. I'm thankful to me and my own greatness. We have to be thankful to God. And God has shown us great mercy. May we be worthy of it.
I have no words to add to that. Amen is what I would say to that.
It's good to see you,
Good
brother.
man. You too, man. Congratulations on being part of the greatest country in the world.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to having you back again.
Yeah, I'll book. I will. I will speak to Lizzie and try and organise kids' timetables and various. But we'll be back over, and I've got to go and see Calvin. Otherwise, he'll hate me. Well, no, he won't. He'll just
Well,
bug
we
me.
got to get him
But
down there too, and we'll go drive some Porsches and have some fun. But this has been another episode of
WTF? The world according to Taunton and Fox. Goodbye.